So this time, we're taking a look at the DC Club Infinite Earths subscription, or as they term it on the box, the Signature Collection. And this is the figure that you got when you bought the subscription. This is mainly why I got the subscription. A couple other figures really sweeten the deal, but you can only get this if you bought the subscription through MattyCollector.com. The mailer box, pretty plain. You get a pretty big box inside the mailer box. You can see where the chair pieces and Metron fit in. You get some pretty neat box art on the sides and on the back there. You get a nice little write-up here too, all about Metron. And there is that really nice art. So here is a look at Metron. And Metron has the basic body sculpt, as most of these figures are going to have, with only a newly sculpted head and hands. Initially, I thought they might be a reuse of the other splayed hands that a few of the figures have had in this line, but none of them exactly match. The other figures that I tried to look at to see if they match were the Spectre, Deadman, and there was one, Mercury. All of them have similar splayed out hands, but none of them are exact. And so that means that's pretty cool that they molded all new hand pieces for this. That was pretty good, except for one little thing that I can see is that the seam on his upper thigh is pretty visible here on both the inside and outside. I guess occasionally that will happen. It's not that big of a deal, but it just is a little thing that I picked up on. Now, I do like his paint. It is very, very clean. The paint on his face and on his chest is nice. Actually, I probably believe the chest design is probably tampoed on. There's one nitpick about the paint. Again, the white here is more of a grayish white, or an outright gray, rather than a vibrant white. Something that is common with the DC figures for some reason. They just don't seem to get white on them right. However, you will see that he's got white teeth and white eyes, so I don't understand. So he's got a very, very good design. Of course, very close to the original, following the design by Jack Kirby, who created all the new gods, and they basically haven't changed much over the years. Very neat. I'm glad they did this for the figure. He's the one that I voted for, because you could vote for the subscription figure when you bought the subscription. I think they wanted to do a Black Lantern Swamp Thing, which would have been a repaint of the Swamp Thing that we got for San Diego Comic-Con. I didn't want that. There's a couple of other ones that didn't pique my interest. Only Metron. And, of course, Metron would have only one accessory, and that would be his Moebius Chair. Moebius, of course, being named after the design that is theoretically would loop on to itself. Pretty hard to explain without showing you, but like a Moebius strip would be something where you would start out on the top and eventually end up on the bottom of where you started in some mathematical geometrical way. And so that's how the chair gets its name. And as you can see, the chair has these it's primarily green, and it's got this greenish gold tint to it in some places. I wish the gold would have been a little bit brighter, maybe. But you can still make it out here against the light. And you can see there's lots of Kirby-esque designs that are built into it. On the sides here, you got the Kirby tech on the back here, and the bottom as well. Very nice. And the figure sits in it quite nicely. And the chair owes some design elements to the 1953 H.G. Wells Time Machine movie. It probably influenced Kirby a little bit when he created the chair, since you have this great spinning thing on the back here, and it's sort of a sled-like design to the bottom of the throne here, or the chair. Really great that they included this. And as you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but this does actually spin. We'll take a closer look at the articulation of the Master of Time and Space here. I mean, it's pretty standard for the DC Universe Classics figures, and probably what will be the rest of the DC Signature series, or Signature Collection series. Head does go up and down, left and right, slightly side to side, a little bit even. Arms go all the way around, out, rotate at the bicep, bend at the elbow, rotate at the wrist. Does have ab articulation, but it is pretty tough to get him, staying hunched down or flexed back. It seems to want to move back into a neutral position. It's kind of a little bit unfortunate. It does have waist articulation. Legs go forward, back, out to the side. Rotate at the thigh, bend at the knee, and bend at the ankles. And now, he does require a fairly wide stance when standing, just because of the way the positioning of his feet there, I found. He is kind of, when you put his legs together, they are kind of at an odd angle, so he's meant to have a wide stance when standing. So Metron first appeared in the New Gods #1 in 1971, and Metron he's a mysterious observer and seeker of knowledge, as I mentioned before, he moves through space and time on his Moebius chair in search of knowledge and just to witness events in history, not interfering too much except when the stakes are really high, like the end of the entire universe or such. I guess you could kind of say that he's a little bit like the DC Universe version of the Watcher, but with a little bit more, because he is very well associated with the New Gods. And at first, when I started reading, I thought he was actually a New God, but he is not affiliated with either the New Gods or the Apocalypse gods, Darkseid and his crew. But there is some connection, because apparently he invented the boom tomb technology, which he then was somehow gave to both Apocalypse and New Genesis. And he really doesn't interfere in the goings on of things, but anytime there's a really big crisis, he will act to save large populations or the galaxy, universe, and time. The biggest thing in my mind is 0 Hour, when he actually helped gather people to fight Extant, and then again during the Jeff Johns JSA run, he helped the JSA defeat Extant again when he resurfaced. And let's see, what else? He being associated with the New Gods, he did play a big part of the whole death of the New Gods and Final Crisis. Again, just because of that whole mess of continuity, there's lots of confusion around that. I know that he did find Norman Shiloh, and I guess Norman Shiloh, that was the mini-series that Grant Morrison did, and he actually had something to do with indirectly causing the death of Norman Shiloh when they encountered the Source, and I think he asked to die, or something. He asked the Source to die because of his guilt, and it was granted. But however, in Final Crisis 1, an all-silver being introduces himself as Metron. And I know that the Moebius Chair, which exploded or was destroyed, was harvested or, salvaged by Superman to build this machine called the Miracle Machine, which helped apparently all the New Gods and Apocalyptic beings to be reborn, including Metron, which again is kind of confusing because he's not really a New God or part of the Apocalypse world. And in the Bruce Wayne, whatever, when he's going through time, forget whatever it is called, he does appear to Bruce Wayne, encouraging him to resist Darkseid and his whole thing through time. I don't know. That whole thing is very confusing. He does have a cameo on the Superman animated final episode, where he shows up with a bunch of New Genesis warriors to throw Darkseid off planet Earth. And in JLU, he does come back, and he's voiced by none other than Daniel Day Kim, who was Jin on Lost. I forgot his name there. Now, a connection with the DC and Mattel and Masters of the Universe is here because it's pretty much accepted that Metron and his Moebius Chair did influence the design or the concept of Zodak. And it's quite possible that we'll see a redeco of this for a Masters of the Universe Zodak. I think they call it a cosmic chair or something like that. So it's quite possible that thanks to the DC universe, we'll have parts for a Masters of the Universe Classics, which is kind of neat. So that'll do it for Metron and his Moebius Chair. Stick around because I've got the regular figure for this month from the subscription, and that's Atrocitus, the Red Lantern, the head of the Red Lantern Corps, and he's a pretty good figure as well. So until my next video, I'll see ya.